Hey everybody, it's Trigger Bar Philosopher. Welcome back out to the channel. Today we have an exciting episode. We're going to be going over my recent hunt in New Mexico where we got to go out and see if we could bring home an Oryx. Should be a good time. Let's get shooting. All right, well, we're going to try this in a little bit different format. I tried to do it in a vlog style video, but that just didn't work out. So we'll just kind of tell the story and interrupt and show the hunt as we progress. But at any rate, I live in eastern Pennsylvania, but spend a lot of my lifetime out in New Mexico. And so I have some good friends who are out there. And so we got to recently sign up for a hunt that is on a private land down near the White Sands Missile Range. And we were able to, with that private hunt, or with the private land hunt, you had to go with some outfitters, and so we went with some outfitters who took us out to do a hunt out on this private land. Now, hunting Oryx is kind of a unique thing because they're an African game animal. They were introduced originally in the late 1940s. Well, there was a herd that was brought to the New Mexico Zoo of about 16 Oryx from Africa in about 1946, 49, somewhere in that time frame. And then their offspring were put down at the range, at the White Sands Missile Range. I think someone thought, hey, this is the perfect environment. Looks very similar to Africa. And you know, it was probably after the first nuclear weapon that the Trinity site was exploded. And so someone thought, hey, down near White Sands, maybe need some new animal species, and why not put an Africa game animal down there? So that's what we're doing there. Now, they are of the subspecies or of the family of animals that's in the antelope category, but they are not native to North America, and they've been doing just outstanding in New Mexico. And they have left the range, and they're off the range. They're on to some government lands that are off the range. So you'll see some videos of folks talking about their off-range public land hunt. See videos of people talking about their on-range public land hunt. Now in New Mexico, everything's lottery system for drawing for big game, and it's super hard to get a public land hunt. In fact, it's usually a once-in-a-lifetime type hunt for those folks who are able to draw. But of course, if you get people who own large swaths of land down there are able to get private tags for their land to keep these numbers down as they are expanding across this southern part of New Mexico. And so we were able to hook up with an outfitter and get some tags, you know, a long time in advance and get this hunted. And so there were 4 of us that went off on this hunt. So part of this includes me taking off from Pennsylvania. And of course, a good part of that is being able to check in my gun at the airport and check it through all the way through to the other side. Now, I flew American, and I had no problem whatsoever checking the gun in. You bring it with a lock, and remember, you're not going to be using locks that are TSA approved because you want to make sure they are locked the entire time so that no one gets into your gun case. I ended up going with a Pelican vault, the vault case. It's a pretty big case, but I went with this type of case as I thought it would provide some good protection, allow me maybe a little bit different additional storage with it. And again, just as a reminder for those of you who are unfamiliar with the channel, I am using my custom hunting rifle, which is based off a Tikka T3X action that has been rebarreled for the Wildcat Cartridge 7-6.5 PRCW, W after Alex Wheeler, who is the one who really invented this cartridge. But I have a friend who built a reamer specifically for a monolithic hunting bullet. It's based off the 153 grain Hammer Hunter. And again, the case is a 6.5 PRC case, next up to a 7mm bullet. And then we have the 153 Hammer Hunter HHT bullet that we're using on here. It's a tip bullet, and I've got lots of videos showing me sighting the gun in and ballistics and performance, things like that. But really, this, to my knowledge, hasn't really been hunted much. Now, my friend took an antelope a few months back, and so I believe that's the first game animal, to my knowledge, published with the 7-6.5 PRCW. There may have been others, because we're certainly not the first to have done this, but I just haven't seen reports of people using it for hunting. Mostly it's used in F-class long-range shooting with match class bullet. We're going to put it to the test with a larger game animal. Now, Oryx are somewhere in the category above maybe a mule deer, but but below an elk. And, you know, depending on the size of the animal, they could cross over. But, you know, for somewhere in the range of 400 to 700 pounds are going to be a full-size animal. Cows and bulls both have horns, and they are horns and not antlers. As you can see from this one here, this is an Oryx skull cap. And again, the horns would be going back and the face would come down here. So very similar to Barbary sheep and antelope in that case. But again, these are more of a horned animal instead of an antlered animal. Unfortunately, words are hard for me, so sometimes you'll hear me talk a little bit about both. All right, so well, we took off from Philadelphia and we had to fly through Chicago. That always makes me worried when you're firing with a firearm, or you go to a state where, you know, it's illegal for me to possess a firearm because I don't have a firearm license with me, which is, again, just kind of unconstitutionally silly. But if there was a delay or a layover, I would not pick up my gun there. That would be a no-no. And so, but it flew through Chicago, and I flew Chicago and then landed in Albuquerque, New Mexico, no problem. And as you'll see here, I was super happy to get the rifle and make sure that it was there, because that's a worry when you're going on a hunting trip, and if your rifle doesn't arrive with you, that can really mess things up. Always a moment of truth. Bag one. Now we have to make sure we get the gun. Okay, good news. Here it comes with it now. That's the scariest part of all of this. Man, I can't tell you how relieved I am. As many times as luggage is lost, that's a big one. Okay, well, the very first thing that I did after I got this rifle, on the road, went down and met my friend at an old range that I used to be at. One of my very first videos on the channel was of me shooting a match at this range. In fact, it was the very first short that I ever published. And we're back at the range, so it's kind of good to be home a little bit and out with my friend. And so we're going to make sure that as this gun traveled, as it gets tossed and thrown in the luggage and all of these things, you know, did this sight hold up? Did it hold zero? Did it get bumped? I do have Nightforce rings on here with 3 screws that you can see for it. And I got that specifically because I want to make sure that this stays in place and this scope doesn't get bumped and get moved and jostled off and lose zero in the process of moving around from place to place. And so we got out to the range, and then we'll see, trying to get our zero confirmed and out at 200 yards. And I prefer for these longer range hunts a 200 yard zero. That means pretty much between 100 and 300, you're right on. Okay, this is where we were at 200 yards after the flight. I did move up a half MOA. So yeah, I moved up a quarter MOA, which is a ½ inch. So I think that's going to be about right. Okay, well, zero confirmed, absolutely. So we are right on target for that. I was a little concerned that we're hitting a little bit low because I thought my zero was there, but we adjusted up and we're off and ready to go. Zero is confirmed at 200 yards. Okay, we're drawing the way down. We're driving on our way back down to Truth or Consequences, and so it's south and east of Elephant Butte is where we're headed out. Fun time. We all pitched in and we got a VRBO type a house for us to stay at, and made it down to the range. It's a beautiful drive down from Albuquerque down to the city. Truth or Consequences. Fun fact is that Truth or Consequences was renamed in the 1960s, maybe the 50s, after a game show called Truth or Consequences. We made it down, and then next up is getting up bright and early and meeting out for the hunt at 7 a.m. So you can see we have nice, beautiful scenery as we get out into this part of the country, and you can just see forever. Again, when you live back east and you don't see these vistas that go on forever. It's often a great reminder of your place on Earth, your place in the universe. Pretty cool environment to see as we are getting out to the places that we are going to hunt. All right, well, we get out there, we meet up with our guides who asked really not to be on camera. But first morning, my friend and I, there's 2 guides. So 2 guys go with one guide, I go with the other. We're in pickup trucks, and we get out and we start driving around, get out into the property where we're allowed to hunt. Again, these Oryx are free range, so they are not fenced in. This isn't like a population that was planted here for this purpose of hunting. Again, this happened many, many decades ago, and then they've spread out into lands beyond the missile range. And so these are animals that have just come in and somewhat of an invasive species at this time, and are into the land. Now, the one thing that this ranch does is it breaks up its hunting tags into full horned animals and then broken horned animals. We're specifically out looking for something that has a broken horn, and so we start to look out to see herds of animals or even solo animals. Again, cow, bull, doesn't make a difference, looking for something that has a broken horn. So just because you see an oryx doesn't mean that you can actually hunt it and go after it. So we get out, and pretty quickly along our way, we find our first herd, which was awesome, and didn't take very long. And in that first herd, we really didn't see any that had a broken horn. So that was a little bit disappointing. And we drive down the road just a little bit further. We see another herd, of a bigger herd. So the first herd maybe had 10, 12 animals. This next herd probably had 40 animals in it, but it only had one young bull, it looked like, that had a broken horn, and maybe he was about 2 years old. And the guide said he really didn't want us taking that animal because he wanted to let it grow a little bit older, and it's the first morning of the hunt, and so let's take some time. So he takes us down to a little bit around a corner, down around a dry lake bed, and we get out, and we see another herd way off in the distance, and we decide, let's get after it. So we get out and we start walking as fast as we can to get out into this herd. We're walking through this mesquite, trying to make time up on this set of oryx. And we don't even know if there is a broken antlered in this herd. There could be, but we just don't know that at this point. We're going to have to sneak up on them and get a little bit closer and see if there's one. But larger herds, you're generally going to find at least 1 or 2 broken horns in there. But unfortunately, their kissing cousins, the antelope, the American antelope, North American antelope, pronghorned antelope, decided to spook us out. And when they saw us or heard us, they just started, all the herd of maybe 30 antelope just started running like crazy. You see a cloud of dust, and then pretty soon that cloud of dust is falling with the oryx, and they're all gone. And we didn't even get very close to even get upon them. At that point, you know, it's going to be miles and miles, and we're not going to catch them. Once they start really just on a dead run, kind of you got to give up on that herd, because it's going to be several miles, and you may not have a road that you can get back to catch up with them again. So walk back to the truck, and then on to looking for some more animals. We take off down a few different roads, looking in different directions. We eventually are driving past, and it was kind of a fun experience where I said, I think there's some out there. Now you got to take a little bit of a case in point, is that sometimes you have these cactus that look very gray, they have some black spots, and then they have a long spike. They're called a yucca plant, and they look an awful lot like an oryx. After you see a few oryx, then you start seeing all these yucca plants that you think look like oryx. And sure enough, I thought, hey, there's one out there. And the guide said, nope, those are just yuccas. And then we drove a little bit more, maybe 10 seconds more. I said, no, those are oryx. And so we saw a herd back in there, and we definitely saw one that had 2 broken horns in that herd. And our guide was very wise, and so he just kept on driving. He drove and he drove and drove until we got out of sight of those oryx. And we watched those oryx the whole time. They did not take off on a dead heat. They definitely saw us in the truck, but we got out of there and they did not take off on a dead run. So at this point, they were up against some lava rock. Okay, we just did our first stalk. Antelope gave us up. We're about to head out on our second stalk. Hopefully we get one. To get up on that little mesa, we're talking like 10, 15, 20 foot high mesa, not a high mesa. Get up on that, circle around this clump of antelope. We drove past them, and then we drove around, and then we tried to circle around and come back down on top. And we kind of went to where we thought they might be. And sure enough, my guide actually knew or saw that they were moving around and had come around a valley that was along parallel to it. So we tried our best sneaking up through it. So around as we're trying to sneak through and walk through this, that we got a little visit from a critter of a rattlesnake. Boy, it was curled up, and I did not see that rattlesnake. Fortunately, the guide in front of me saw it and pointed it out to me, and yeah, gave me a little scare because it, in the moment, blended just like it looked just like that black lava rock. Those rattlesnakes are so crazy in how they can adapt their skin colors and get out to where you're, you know, just certainly looking like something is really just rock, and then you're going to step on it. Now, fortunately, it was a little cold out this morning. It was probably, temperatures were in the 60s and 50s as we were out walking around, and so that snake wasn't really moving at those temperatures. All right, so we're out walking on top of this mesa. We come up on this first little bump that we can see down into them, and they're at 600-700 yards. So we decided to come back around a different way on them and catch up behind them. But unfortunately, as we came around and tried to come up on behind them, they just kept moving further and further down the valley. But they hadn't seen us, so they were moving at a slow movement. Now, one thing that people had told me in advance of this hunt that you have to know with Oryx is they don't stop. Like, they never just stop and graze. They are munching and moving almost nonstop. And so they were doing that. Now, one crazy thing, and I didn't get any video of this, but as we're kind of moving around in and out of these little valleys with this lava rock, all of a sudden up jumps this brown flash that just bolts out of there. And that was a baby Oryx. I didn't realize that at the time, spoke with the guide. I didn't know what kind of animal it was. I actually even thought it might have been a Barbary sheep, because those are in the area as well. And he said, no, it was a baby. And he said the herd likes to stash their babies in various places while they're out ranging, and then they come back later in the day and go up and pick them up. Fortunately, the baby didn't give us up, probably just went out and hid in a different spot, but we kept going, and then we decided, with that, they were coming down this valley, we're in this mesa, we decided to go on the back side of that mesa and pursue them in parallel. And as we kept walking and walking down this mesa, we kept taking trips up to the top of the mesa, peeking down, seeing how far they were, range finding. You know, several times I thought maybe this is it. We're going to get up and we're going to get on them. No, it's still an 800-yard shot. It's still a 700-yard shot, which I'm not taking. Even a 500-yard shot, I'm not taking. So we keep moving down in parallel with these little peaks that we get up to until finally we get out to a spot where we're at about, I didn't exactly know where we're at. I thought maybe we were at about 250 yards is where I thought we were at, but it turns out we were probably at 300. So I sneak up, and the guide says, get your tripod ready, and let's clip and go to that video footage now and watch what happens.
Why did you shoot? It's walking. Reload.
Reload.
It's in the front.
Yeah, he's in the front.
Let it stop. It's far left to the front, running to us.
He's the one going off to the side. Yeah, the one most
It's
off.
coming up this edge right here.
Yeah, he's the one most up there.
Hang on. Move up. First one on top. You hit it.
Yeah.
First one on top.
Yeah.
I'm reloaded.
He's stopping.
Don't shoot. Yep. You got a bunch in there.
Yep, yep, I'm not moving. He went down, either the slope or went down.
I think it went there.
Sorry, I thought he stopped for a second. He moved towards me. He had turned a little bit. I don't see him there.
I don't see it there. So don't shoot. Just let him go. Unless you see that one come out.
Is that one limping?
Ain't yet.
Okay, no, that's just them going up.
It ain't coming out.
I think it's down. I think they're.
Good.
Then there's one behind it. You'll see some antelope. Then there's one behind it. It's walking towards the antelope.
Okay,
Do you see it?
he's walking away from me.
It's kind of got his butt to you.
Okay,
Now
yeah,
it just
yeah.
turned.
Yep,
Wait for it to stop.
okay.
It's got two antelope behind it. You want it?
I do, but it's a butt shot right now.
Don't shoot that. Stay on it.
I had
Reload. Reload. They're coming towards us. It's in the front. Just let it stop. It's far left to the front, running to us, going through the brush. It's coming up this edge right here. It's going to stop right there. Hang on. Move up. Move up. It's right there on top. The first one on top. You hit it. You hit it. Good.
Looks like we got him. Better to be lucky than good. First shot miss. They ran towards us. Got him with the second shot. High shoulder, so it looks like double lung and bled out pretty quick. All right, so lots to unpack here. So I just let that video footage play and we'll replay certain segments of it now. So I get on the animal and we find a broken horn, has two broken horns on it. And I get on this animal and it's facing and quartering away from me. I really don't want to take a quartering away shot and it's walking. And so you heard the guide whistle several times. On the third and fourth loudest whistle, the animal had turned around and was walking towards me, which is a much better shot. At one point, I thought the animal stopped. The guide said, that animal didn't stop. Why'd you shoot it? I felt horrible about that, and I missed low. Lots to unpack with this. At this point, my latest theory is probably a flinch on my behalf. Animal was walking. And I think there's something off with my BC and my bullet. I don't think I should have been that far off to have missed below it. I think I should have hit the animal. I had a good hold. I felt comfortable with the shot. I felt comfortable with me making that shot. And there was a couple of factors. I thought it was 250 yards. That's where I had my scope dialed into. It was 300 yards. Now with my dope, difference between 250 and 300 yards is 5 inches. 5-inch down drop. Now, I'll show a little picture of where the heart and the anatomy on an Oryx is. The heart is very low on this animal. So I aimed very low on the shoulder. So the combination of me aiming very low, it being dropping 5 inches, and then perhaps the ballistics not being right, and there's a little bit more drop, maybe 7 inches, 6 inches at that range, and then maybe a little flinch. And then also the animal moving away so that I didn't hit its shoulder, and instead I went under it. And that's what the guide said, is that I missed under it. Now, there was a huge blessing. And one thought I had in this moment too is that, like, if you don't, in my opinion, believe in God, go hunting and get out there, and you'll realize why we believe in God, because this was divine providence. So what happened in this moment of panic and everything going on is that bullet sailed under that animal, hit right behind the animal, and spooked it. And it noticed a threat from behind. Again, with me shooting a suppressed rifle, it was very soft. You heard it. It wasn't a big loud boom. That animal had no idea where this threat was coming from, except that something behind it probably heard the sonic crack, and it hit the ground behind it. It noticed a threat, and it started running right towards us. It eventually veered up to the top of the mesa, and that's where you see me get my shot. And I think it was. I've watched the video over and over. In my mind, all of that happened so much slower. Like, there was a whole bunch of time between my first shot and my second shot. I go back and look at that footage, it's like 5 seconds. It's not very long at all. So looking at that, and then also, I don't think the animal stopped on the second shot. At least I didn't see it in the video footage. It looked to be moving the whole time. So again, I think I could make that shot with it moving just a little bit. But by the time it had moved up to the top of that mesa and I had repositioned just a little bit, the shot that we then measured later, and I'll show a little clip of this of where I'm now down where the animal is and where my friend is, we ranged that and we are at 190 yards. Okay, my friend is standing down there. I'm sure if I can see him. He's standing down where I shot from. I'm standing where our first sign of any blood is. So back well within the target. I didn't make an adjustment. I was at 250. So again, I did hit, and I probably aimed, or it probably hit just a little bit high, but not much high. And it was a great shot, and you see the animal jump, and you see, I also went back later and saw that there was definitely a pretty significant blood trail, and we'll show some of the clips of that. Good blood trail. And then we, we saw that the animal went down. We saw some of the other animals watching and waiting for this one, but it went down off that cliff. My belief is that it fell where that big blood pool is, and then it got up, tried to run a little bit more, tried to actually get under a fence, and then that's where it died. In my mind, that was pretty slow, but in reality, it was less than a minute. For sure. And you look at the shot, it was just a devastating shot. So again, our 7-6.5 PRCW, gotta believe it's the first, if nothing else, it's the first Oryx taken with this cartridge. Probably the second big game animal that's ever been taken with this cartridge. But it did a devastating job. The Hammer Hunter HHT just really just opened up that animal, tons of blood loss. And it's odd because all the other YouTube videos that you'll watch, what we heard from the guide is that Oryx, a couple of things, Oryx don't bleed and they will run forever. Well, this animal only ran 50 yards and was down. In fact, probably only ran 10 yards and was down, got up and ran another 40 yards and was down for good. So I think it was a devastating blow. I think this cartridge proved itself very effectively with this hunt. I'll tell you, I didn't probably look as happy as I was. There was a number of things. I was still feeling guilty for that first shot that I missed. I have a hard time of letting go of things that I might make a mistake on. And I really don't want an animal ever to suffer. And I realized that first miss definitely could have ended up with a wounded animal that ran for miles and miles before it was no longer able to survive on its own. So I'm just feeling very fortunate that I was able to get a second chance on this animal and make that second chance count with the one shot bring down. I do want to say that, in my mind, when the animal was down, it was just kind of a praise God moment and thank him for this wonderful life and the meat that it was going to provide for me and my family and friends. It's a spiritual experience when you are taking the life of another animal to sustain your own life. For those of you who are hunters, know what I'm talking about, and it's a sobering moment. And again, a lot of the weight of what I had almost missed that was on in the past. And another part of it was that we were taking turns. So this was my turn to hunt this animal. I really didn't want to take, we had 3 days to get this hunt done. I was concerned that would take up a whole bunch of time before my friend would get time to get his turn on getting an animal. And so I was actually more relieved about that in that moment, that he would then get an opportunity, because he's a good friend. He's been good to me for many years. Wanted to make sure that he had the opportunity to get his Oryx as well. And by the way, this is the same friend who set me up on this rifle. So we have kissing cousin rifles, and he also used the same cartridge, the 7-6.5 PRCW. And if you stay tuned, we're going to see what happens on his hunt here now next. But you know, one of the cool things about going with a guide is he was able to bring his truck out, had a winch, pulled this animal up, got it all gutted, field dressed, so on and so forth. We got back to a place that they're able to do meat processing. They had a winch, held the animal up, got everything stripped off, and then they actually had a fridge, a cold fridge, a walk-in fridge that they just, you know, moved the animal on, didn't have to do any lifting. It was one of the most pleasant hunts I've ever been on, but you know, you kind of get what you pay for, I guess, in these situations. We finally got this animal down as a crow flies back to where the truck was parked, and we were out 1.7 miles. So we actually walked quite a bit. We probably reckon we walked about 2.5 miles on the stalk for this animal. So what a fantastic hunt. That was just incredible to be able to participate and be part of and do that. And just an amazing stalk on an animal, a magnificent animal like this, and be able to harvest it and bring back this meat. So that takes us to the end of my hunt. I appreciate everyone watching at this point, but we're going to keep going. We're going to keep pressing on into the next hunt. Update, we have gotten the Oryx cleaned, and now we're just out kind of glossing for my friend. We've ran into about 4 or 5 different herds, nothing that is management ready. Well, one was, but they were 1,000 yards away and already booking it out. These Oryx are pretty tough. They have great vision, all the senses. They are super tough and super hard to get on. And so we get out to some other vistas, see some more out in the distance, come up over a range. We see some out in a little bit, and we think, hey, we can get on the stalk and get out on these. A couple of times, Frank gets his rifle on the tripod and is able to start looking down on the animal. In one of the cases, we got stalked up super close to. And then we don't take the shot. There was nothing really there for him to take a shot at, because they all had full horns. So we hike all the way back, get back into the truck, keep going down, and we see a whole other herd. Again, there probably would have been a shot if we jumped out of the truck super fast. We probably didn't move fast enough, and a little bit too long of a shot. We think we can maybe drive around and catch them on the other side, but they just start running and they're off, and probably ran for miles and miles. And that pretty much concluded day one of our hunt. So next morning, back out at it. We actually switch guides and get to go have a different experience, see a different part of their property, to start hunting in some different areas. And the morning was rough. We saw 2 Oryx at one point. We took some drive around trying to see that, but really not much going on. We then take out to another part of the range. We keep moving on. Really, again, just see a lone Oryx at that point, maybe 2 or 3, but really not seeing much. Takes us to a rather cool spot. We don't see anything, but we drive up onto, again, some of this lava rock. We get out, and we're up on a vista, and we see tons of buffalo. And we think the buffalo have moved the Oryx all out, but then we move a little bit different spot of the vista, or of the mesa, and we're able to see a herd of, gosh, about 8 to 10 of them. But there is a broken horn one in this group, and so we get on the stalk. And we start moving, and we're hiking, we're walking down, we get on at one spot, and we just see the last one heading up over the ridge. Unfortunately, I didn't get any footage of that. We get back up onto the mesa, And that's a scary part, is that we are able to hide behind some various lava embankments and then just crouch over just the top and see if we can get a shot on them. And we don't get any good shots that are close and any that are available. But then we have a long, the Oryx basically disappear. We see them go over the top of a mesa, but we have this 300 yard, 400 yard, 500 yard mesa with no cover, very low scrub brush, that we're gonna have to walk across. And that really makes us nervous, because if all of a sudden it dips off the other side and there the Oryx are, they'll probably see you before they see us. And one of the tips the guide said was, look for the horns. Make sure you're just looking for the horns, because they are really long and they may stick up. See the horns before you see the animals and you have a chance of getting on them. And so we got up there, we got on the stalk, and my friend gets up and lo and behold, he sees them. There you go. All right, well, you saw that Oryx down, one shot. So far, the 7-6.5 PRCW is 2 for 2 when it hits the animal. That's pretty good. I think the overall shot was probably under 100 yards. We'll get some distances when we hear from some other folks, but man, what a fun stalk. The stalk was just, it kept going on and on. I didn't know if we'd lost him. We all thought we'd lost him, but they had come down. If you can just see, there's just a little gully here. There's not much of a gully. It probably looks totally flat, but we're in a, like, you know, a 10-foot depression right here. That's where the Oryx, the herd was. You saw the herd running off, but that was so fun. That was really cool. See, that's what hunting's about getting on the stalk. It's about being out here. So awesome. All right, so another Oryx down. A couple of quick lessons to talk about here. So a couple of odd things that had happened during that. You saw my friend moving around with his safety. So again, we have the same gun, same Tikka action. He has a different stock on his, but same Tikka action, same barrel, very similar, same reamer, all these things. So what had happened on his gun is he went and he moved it off safety, or so he thought he did. But what had happened is when he was on the stalk is that the lever had come up just a little bit. Just a little bit. And that meant when he pushed the safety, it wouldn't go forward. You have to really jack on that to go forward. And when you jack on that, just a little bit more. But as the bolt had come up, again, it's on safety. And as this bolt comes up just a little bit, see, it can't come up and come out because it's locked on safety. Right? But when it comes up just a little bit here, you push forward and it feels like it's off safety and it's stuck and it's not moving. See, if it's down, you push forward, it's really easy. But if it's up, it's on safe, and this bolt is just up just a little bit, he couldn't get the gun off safety, and that's what he was futzing around with. Like, come on, guy, you got to get that safety off. Let's go. But afterwards, I learned what the issue was, and kind of a, you know, hey, when you're getting on that animal, make sure your bolt is down. Even when you have one of these locking type things, or really push forward hard on that safety to make sure it clicks off. But fortunately, and hey, his shot ended up being 67 yards. That is crazy. We got a crazy good stock. And of course, when you're that close, he was dialed in for 250 yards. He got a pretty high shot, but the benefit of that high shot was that it hit the Oryx right in the back. And again, I'll show up that picture of the anatomy of the Oryx. You'll notice that the spine actually dips way below, a whole bunch of muscle and cartilage and other stuff. They have a very thick top, and what I've been told is that thick top actually protects them from lions. As the lions try to grab them from behind and grab on their spine, they actually just get tissue and that can rip away. So that's kind of a protection that built up for them. But fortunately, it was an immediate crumple, animal down, and what a gorgeous animal that you see here. And, you know, just a fantastic animal. Ended up being, I think, just a little bit bigger than the one that I got. When we got the meat part off, they ended up very close in weight as well. But definitely, he got the better set of horns. They were fantastic. Just a little bit broken off of one antler or of one horn. But, you know, very, very happy for my friend. So by the end of day 2, or by the end of morning of day 2, we're done. The other guys had a little bit more trouble on their hunt. One of our buddies was able to get a shot on a much smaller Oryx, which was great. Hey, sometimes you can leave the hunt with empty-handed, but he was able to get shot on a smaller Oryx, and that was quartering away. He tried to aim for it, and he's gonna yell at me for telling this part of the story, because what he would say is he one shot dropped it with a headshot. Of course, he was trying to aim a little bit as it's quartering away, and then missed just a little bit, ended up hitting it right in the head, and was an immediate drop, which is fortunate again for the animal on it. But fantastic. He's a great hunter and fantastic shot as well, and did just a phenomenal job. He was hunting with 30-06, did a fantastic job, took the animal down. We have another buddy who was hunting with a 6.8 Western, and unfortunately on this hunt was not able to come up with game with it. There were some opportunities and various circumstances just led to him not getting able to bring one home this time. So, but hopefully there's some others. So again, just kind of wrapping things up a little bit. Just to recap things with this, you know, things that I learned, lessons that I learned. I always like to do, like, what did I take from this? How could I be better? You know, definitely making sure that that animal is stopped for me and my skills at this point. Making sure that I know my bullet calibration as I get through drops, because sometimes published ballistic coefficients, the BCs, maybe not accurate. And making sure, another part that I just really need to hammer home is I tried to aim at 300 yards for just this bottom little tiny section of that animal. I should have gone up higher on that animal, given myself leeway. If I miss high, low, left, right, would have been a much better shot. And that's how most hunters do. That's what I did on my second shot. I didn't try to get for that just perfect spot to only hit the heart and take it with a one-shot drop. I definitely should have done that just a little bit differently, and really regret having to learn this lesson. You know, go for the body shot. This is the same in self-defense. You can go for that T-zone. Don't go for the T-zone, right? You know, go for the A-zone body shot when you're in self-defense, and don't worry about that precision. It's always more important to be able to get that shot on in that moment and get it in the right part of the animal. So that was an important lesson for me. Other than that, really happy with the rifle. Scope worked great. I can't remember which power it was. You see me moving it back and forth. When the animal got closer, at the last second, I just flipped it over fast and was definitely zoomed out a little bit further. And you know, everything worked great with the rifle in my regard. I was able to find the animal, get on really fast. You know, sometimes you worry about a 4 to 32 power scope. You might in that moment be zoomed in, but of course I made sure when I was heading out, I was at 4 power. Only when I was on and seeing the animal did I try zooming in and doing other things like that. So really happy I was able to get on this animal and bring this home. And again, yeah, this is from the hunt that we had. So So this is my Oryx here. I have meat back. I've got some jerky. It tastes amazing. Oryx meat is phenomenal. Everyone says elk meat is the best, but really I would have to concur that Oryx meat is probably the way to go. If you have that opportunity to taste some, give it a taste and you won't regret it. Okay. I appreciate everyone taking the time to be with me on this hunt. Appreciate my friends who are able to go out with me, help me with this. Guides were amazing. Again, not sharing where they're with or who they're with, but I just had a phenomenal time. Look forward to further adventures in the future, but hope everyone has a great week, and let's get to shooting. All right, now this is the treat after the hunt. We got a green chili cheeseburger. We're down here in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, which isn't far from Hatch, New Mexico, where the famous Hatch green chilies are raised and grown. This is gonna be delicious. Super excited, and of course, chocolate shake.
Out here in the US of A, where our spirits run free, trigger bar philosopher, it's you and me. From pistols to rifles, we'll take on the best. Reviewing each weapon, put them to the test. With revolvers and shotguns, we'll break it all down. The Second Amendment protects from the crown. Living for freedom, defending our rights. We got in our hearts, we'll rise to new heights. From the range to the woods, we're ready to roll. Trigger bar philosopher, heart and soul. In the land of the brave, we stand tall and free. Prepping for tomorrow, prepared you will be. Yeah. Conceal, carry wisdom, good guy with a gun. Self-defense strategies will make it fun. Night vision gear on, we move with no light. Tactical training, prepared for the fight. Ammunition tests and ballistic gel in sight. Choosing the best rounds, we'll find out what's right. Living for freedom, defending our rights. We got in our hearts, we'll rise to new heights. From the range to the woods, we're ready to roll. Trigger bar philosophy.